Alright, we're live. Sweet. Alright, let's see what we got today. Doctor is dead. Nah, sounds like clickbait shit to me. Yep, Google alternative that shares revenue with creator. I don't know. Turkey's inflation soars to a 73-year high as food and energy costs rise. SEC stand up to the richest man on the planet. Oh, this one's interesting. You want to complain about inflation? Turkey's got 73%. Sweet. Jesus Christ. This is actually kind of baffling. Food prices rose 91%. Jeez, wow. Alright, central bank, which analyst has no independence from it, to repeatedly slash borrowing rates even as inflation continued to rise. 4 different governors in 2 years. Alright, what's the point here? Vowed to deliver a new economic model that would bring in a boom in export wealth thanks to a cheaper lira. Then tackle inflation by getting rid of the Turkey's longtime trade deficit. Fair, okay. Putting intense pressure on the economy. Yeah, that sounds about right. Economic experts expect the trajectory of Turkey's inflation will only get worse. Reaching 80% year over year. Okay. Back to the inflation of the 1990s. Alright. Okay, so they're just saying facts here. I don't think there's anything really. How do I describe it? That's not really that. It's not. There's not really much to talk about on that front. Um, let's see. Let's see what we got. How harmful is social media? Americans are poorly served by the grocery stores. Really? All right. Counterfeit foods. What the hell? Okay, this one's actually interesting. Sealing air purifier. Blah blah blah. Yeah, let's see. What the heck is counterfeit food? Olive oil, really? Read the ingredients. Would aroma or essence make you turn and run? Added sugar or ethnically suffixed ingredients. Buy whole foods whenever possible. Olive oil may be diluted with soybean or vegetable oil. Wow. Honey? Really? Smuggling cheap honey from China and relabeling it white Korean honey. Okay, I don't know. Like a lot of these things. Oh, okay. Fake caviar, balsamic vinegar, dude. Saffron, vanilla. Okay, these look like these. Okay, these all kind of look um, like bougie ass foods. I'm not gonna lie. Like coffee. Oh, coffee. Okay, okay, fine, fine. Coffee husk if you're a lucky dupe, or even twigs, roasted corn or ground up toasted parchment paper. I don't know. This seems like some kind of clickbait article now at this point. I don't know. I'm not really feeling this one. All right, let's bring on my client and see what's up. Hello? Hello? can't hear you.
Good.
Uh, I can kind of hear you. You said something. You cut off before that.
Um, how is this now?
Okay, that's good. That's good. Yeah.
Right.
How did the practice go?
Mm, not as I expected. I'm still taking too much time, like to. I haven't found the balance between like find the constraints,
Yeah.
where my system will fail, and actually like doing the actual code.
Okay.
I'm kind of I feel like I'm unbalanced, If
Okay.
I stay too little, I'm not gonna have a clear idea of what I have to do. But if I stay too long, there is no time for the code, Specifically because they said that's gonna be 30 minutes,
Yes.
like 30 minutes behavior and 30 minutes this component design thing.
Yeah. Exactly. So, in other words, you need to design this very, very simply, very quickly.
Yeah, basically,
All right.
that's it.
So, in other words, yeah. Show me the. I know you worked on the eBay one. Show it to me.
Yeah, it's on the same link I sent you.
Okay. Let's see.
I'm just going to update the so you can edit if you want to. Just a minute.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
I did one more actually. I did the Craigslist one
Okay. Let's.
today. Uh, just a minute.
Okay. Cool.
Editor, you can edit now
Cool.
if you
Great.
want.
Okay. Did you throw? Okay. Did you try the code?
Yeah, I tried the code.
Instructor cancel bid.
I tried the code for the
Got it.
for that's what I did too.
Okay. So.
Based on your feedback.
Right. Okay. So yeah. So remember, you only have like really four. Start an auction, cancel an auction, place a bid, cancel bid. Those are the only four functionality that you would probably want, and I think that you could do all that in 15 minutes actually. So let's see. Yeah. So you have some user. Uh, okay. The user IDs are not as important as you might think. Like just having an ID is already good enough. Actually, you don't need this relationship just yet. Remember, think simply. Why do you don't need to have like, the focus isn't the user itself. The focus is the auction and the bids.
Yeah.
So stuff like this is not necessary. I mean, at most you only need like an ID, and then you can expand upon that if the user wanted, or if the person wanted. So
But
it's
I,
about
I
knowing
think about like the entities that I need to work.
Right.
So I think about the user, the auction, and the bid.
It's like how is it relevant to what you're trying to accomplish? So in this case, let's say we have our four actions, right? Place a bid, cancel a bid, start an auction, cancel an auction. We just only want to do that and that alone. We're not talking about like the whole business flow just yet. In other words, what purpose does listing the auctions and all our placed bids? Why do we care? Why should we add this to user class?
Um, so like in the future, if you want to, for example, conceal an auction, or like conceal a placed bid. So I know how to find those.
Sure.
That's what I was thinking.
That's what you're thinking, but again, you have these four. All you need to do is focus on these four things. You scoped it out. Just work on these four things, and you can do these things later. This is called what we call overstepping. It just means you're doing too much. So in other words, if it's not going to get you, it's the same idea of the coding interview. If it doesn't get you closer to your goal, there's no point doing it. So
Okay.
this doesn't help you cancel a bid or start an auction.
Just the method itself, right?
Well, and you don't need to list these functions. So you see like where I'm highlighting. Name, okay, I understand.
Yeah.
Token, auction, place bids. The interviewer is not gonna ask, why do I need a token? What's this gonna? How does this help?
Oh yeah, the token is nonsense. I was just thinking in the beginning, but yeah, it's nonsense.
Yeah, in other words, all these three are nonsense. You don't. These items are nonsense. You don't need. They don't help you. So once you've scoped out what you need to do, then you commit to doing just within that scope. All right, next one. Okay, you have an ID for the auction. Owner ID, that's fine. Time open, starting price. Okay, let's look at this. Do you need to have this when you have a list of bids? Do you need to have starting price and highest starting price so far?
Yeah, I can take the last item of the list actually. It's not going to help me. It's just extra things.
Yep,
I
exactly.
just
So if it doesn't help you, then there's no need for it. Hold up, let me. Uh,
Mhm.
yeah, starting price and highest price. Starting price so far doesn't help you get closer to the goal. No need. Plus, like, well, actually it does, but you already have bids, so you don't care. And then is
Yeah.
active. Do you need this?
Um. Yeah, I was going to use this flag just to verify if the auction is active or not before I place a bid. Because
Okay,
some monkey can try to place a bid in auction that is not valid.
sure.
So because of this, I
So let's dig a
think
little
about
deeper
this
into
flag.
that. What are the conditions for making the auction invalid?
Mm, if it's finished, right?
Yeah.
Uh, uh, or if the user, like the owner of the auction, conceal the auction. So
Sure.
that's the other condition.
There are two conditions. So in other words, you're just setting them all into a flag. When in fact you also need to have a what's it called? A time end. And this should be long, by the way, because this is
Oh
millis.
yeah, yeah.
So in general, you want to use Unix time millis for time. And so is active would actually end up being a function, or you just say is stopped by user, and then after that you would do public is boolean is active, and then you would say if return current time greater less than time end, or is not stopped by user. Do you understand? Do you see how like those conditions play into actually creating the function?
Yes, like the first one. Yeah, it's basically current time. Yeah, and the other one is stopped by the user. Yeah, actually, if the first one is if the countdown finished, and the second one is if the user on purpose stopped.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you see, like basically, what these variables are, these should be the least common denominator of your auction, and the rest of it, like the states, it should be these functions should be a transformation of these. You shouldn't have one. In theory, most likely, you shouldn't have like two variables expressing the same thing. In this case, like in this instance, starting price and highest price so far is all reflected by bids. You don't need to maintain these two variables. Simple. You want to keep things as simple as possible. If I can just like get a starting price just by getting the first bid ever placed and the highest bid price so far by the last bid ever placed, I don't need these variables.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Cool. Auction service. Okay. So in other words, you decided to assign all these actions to a service itself. Okay.
Yeah, I think about this way. Yeah.
Okay. I guess that's fine. Um, auction if starting price is less than 0. Sure.
Yeah, that's like the validations.
I would. Okay, so here's something to keep in mind. When you come up with these legal exceptions, the thing is that you're committed to crashing the app when that happens. Now, do you want? Now, let's think of it from the person consuming this event. This person starts an auction. Do they want to receive an exception?
Uh, I don't know. Yeah.
So
I was thinking like just a call to the API, and exception gonna be thrown
okay.
if it's invalid. Yeah, but I don't know like what the end user wants.
Yeah, that's you have to justify it. The thing is that it's not immediately clear because for one, you could return a null auction, or maybe you don't want to return a null auction, in which case this would be fine. So it's a question of like, what does a null auction mean? Like, no auction was created, or do you want to be a little bit more descriptive with this? Do you want to do legal stay exception, or do you just want to do a logging? You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. Because as you said, right? If I throw an exception, I'll break like the flow.
Yeah. And so it's like it's how do you want to design this? So this might be okay, maybe we want to, but you might want to specify in the function that it throws this legal argument exception, so that way the developer who consumes it knows, hey, yeah, there's some shit that I'm probably gonna have to consume. In which case, that's also fine. But it's again, it's about the reasoning behind it.
I see. And one question: where do I like? Do you think it's good like to? Yeah, this reasoning, just so you can follow as well. Write a comment, just or what should I assume? I'm kind of I don't know where to go.
Okay, so
In
you're saying,
this.
do you need to comment this?
Yeah, or comment, or I don't know. Should I assume that I have to throw an exception or return a no auction?
It's going to be different every single time. I can't give you one single answer. I've seen like there are plenty of times when they throw an exception, other times when they don't. So here, let's actually go to cs.android.org. cs.android.com. Let's look at some Android actual Google code, and maybe this might show you where I'm coming from. So let's look at the Android code repository, and let's see throw a new illegal argument exception. Let's see how they use it.
All right.
Throw illegal argument exception. Okay, so Kotlin, decompile, compiler check. Okay, so let's look at this compiler client, right? Throw illegal argument exception, right? So when they're configuring the client option, which is not unlike what you're doing, they see if they pass on a message, right? You see, like if there are any unrecognized options, then we can't instantiate it, and they throw a descriptive message here about it.
Oh, I see.
So it's like, yeah, so in this case, maybe because this is technically a configuration of the auction. So you're like, hey, well, there's no point in starting an auction like this, so this would be perfectly fine. In which case, okay, that's fine.
Okay, but like based on your comments, maybe that's a thing that I need to check with the interviewer as well, right?
Well, yeah, is that you need to have that discussion because look at this next line here. You see, like if there's no compiler class, okay, if there's no compiler class, then they log some info here. Actually, yeah. You need to be able to you need to justify your decision. That's the key point. That's the actual test. It's not whether or not you return null or you throw an exception. It's about why.
I see.
So time open. So these are all perfectly valid because it doesn't matter. The person should know better than to do this just based on start auction. That could also be a reason.
Okay.
But yeah, so okay, let's keep going. So yeah, fine builder pattern. I get it. Doesn't. So let's pretend this is an interview. Like I'm like, why would you use a builder pattern over like constructor?
Oh, I see. Yeah. You just killed me.
No, I didn't. I'm asking. Remember, the trick in this one, in this entire
You're right.
interview, is justification. Why? It can be right, it can be wrong, but I'm asking you why.
I'm trying to find a meaningful reason. Man, I'm not gonna answer this question. I need to really study this before I give you an answer.
Yeah,
I'm gonna take a note. I'm gonna take a note because actually I'm used to this, but there's the nitty gritty details that I need to be able to.
I need to justify why. You need to be able to justify why. I can give you an answer already if you want, and so you might be able to say, "Oh yeah, duh," but.
Actually, I have a discussion with a friend about this, a coworker.
Yeah.
He explained me, but it's kind of complex. I don't remember. That was like, but it's a thing that I took note here, and I will actually.
I mean, I'll say the answer, then you'll see. It's because there may be more variables we want to add in the future, and we don't want to overload the constructor or expose it.
Oh, good.
So, in other words, let's suppose that we threw all this into an auction constructor, right? Then there may be multiple other places we might want to construct a new auction, and each time we change the constructor, we're going to have to change it everywhere else. And there's too many parameters.
Oh yeah.
Just you could say readability is one option as well, and the complexity of validating all these could be another one. I don't know. It could be, but I like the cleanliness answer a lot better, just because like usually the rule of thumb is like for me is like when there's like 3 or 4 parameters. Usually at that point, that's when you really want to start using builder instead of having a bunch of parameters, just so that you can improve readability of the code. Especially if the future parameters are going to be non-essential.
I see.
Because like the builder, it's like with builder. If I added like another option, like it's probably these are pretty much the only things that really matter, right? Maybe pictures, right?
Yeah.
But those would be optional, so it wouldn't break existing code.
Oh yeah. And like the others, I will have to pass a null in case I want to use a new auction,
Yeah.
like the other way, right?
Well, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like the rest of the parameters might not be necessary. So if I were to add that to like the definition of auction builder, then I don't need to modify all the places where I've already created it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I'm saying here is that it involves it's less volatility in the code base. So,
Okay. I'm just taking notes.
so again, these are all like various answers. These aren't the answer, but you can see how I am actually justifying every single piece of code I'm writing.
Yeah, I see.
Okay, code. So is not open auction ID and it's closed. Okay. Let's look at this one. This line. Why?
Right. Basically, I just assumed that there's two functions, right, to validate if the auction is open or not. And yeah, if the auction is opened, actually, if the auction is closed, let's start from the end. It's already closed. There's nothing to conceal, right? And if it's open, if it's not open, yeah, actually, if it's not open and if it's closed, the auction is already closed. Basically, the condition.
Yeah, but if you look at it, like remember, let's throw a monkey at it who's reading this. I see it's not open and it's closed. Well, the person reading is like, wait a minute, it can only ever be open or closed.
Yeah, yeah.
What's the difference between these two? Do you understand where that might be a problem?
The complexity, like, I mean, the readability.
Yes, you have to explain that situation to him. It's like, oh yeah, well the auction might not be open yet. Like, but I don't get that immediately. It's like that understanding is not immediate when I read it.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's why it's a problem. And then this one as well because this is duplicated code.
Yeah. One question: if I use just like is closed auction, right? True.
Yeah.
And throw these exception, will be like more readable, and you understand in the first moment, probably, right?
See, that's the thing. That's the thing. Like, you already said auction is already closed or no option, with the ID. That's fine. That's readable. The problem is this conditional. Is that it's not immediately obvious. That's what I'm saying. Again, let's put your 5-year-old hat on when they're saying, "Hey, I want to cancel an auction," and then you see is open and is closed. It's like, well, it can only ever be open or closed.
Yeah. Yeah, it's redundant. Yeah.
It's redundant. So if you really want to do this, you could just say is auction available and then encapsulate that logic. And there's like is auction not yet open, and then is auction after time. Then okay, it's like after close time or something like that. Make it a little bit more descript. Then that'd be easier to read. So this is about like writing good code about it. So this is like why I'm nitpicking it because they're gonna talk about it too. Okay, so auction manager dot cancel. Okay, I see where your problem is. Okay. Let's go to this. Why is there an auction time manager here?
Because it's like a counter. You know, like I assume that this auction manager is just gonna start the countdown for each auction, basically.
Why?
Because the auctions need to have a timer, like a countdown. You know, this auction time manager is gonna do this. It's gonna handle
you
this.
have time open and time end there. Why can't you just check that?
Yeah, I haven't think about this.
This is what I mean by things that are redundant. Like this, this is redundant. Open and closed auctions is even redundant. You just need to have a list of auctions, and then you can just, I mean, in theory, you could iterate through all of them, and then just find all the open auctions and closed auctions. Of course, that's inefficient, and then in which case you could refactor it to do this. But what I'm saying is that it's like you overcomplicated it at the very beginning. Just think very simply and think naively, and then acknowledge the inefficiencies as they come.
Basically, think naively. All right, focus on that. Focus. Because I think about what you said to me like on the last session. You need to really understand first all the things you're doing. You know, and justify all the things before you actually write the code.
Yes.
So basically, I was trying to go in this context with the optimal, not the naive,
Yeah,
approach.
it's the same thing as like throwing a optimal solution at a coding problem, at a leak code problem.
So basically, follow like the same thing, right? Go
Exactly.
naively and then improve.
It's all exactly the same thing. Like, of course, if something's so blatantly naive, then you probably don't need to do it. But remember, you've already set the scope for yourself here. All you need to do is satisfy the scope now. So in other words, if we're trying to cancel an auction, we just want to allow a user to cancel their own auction. So then all you need to do is just pull the auction out by the ID and then set is stopped by user to be true. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, it would just be So then, and then all the rest of the services we don't care about just yet. We're not broadcasting it to anyone else. All we're doing is just managing the auction and the stakes themselves. So all you really need is this line right here. It's like openauctions.get, and then all it is would just be, in theory, it would be so simplified that it would just be auctions.get by auction ID, and then dot is active equal false. It would be a one-liner.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then of course you can start talking about scale afterwards, and fixing the inefficiencies. But again, we're just trying to get the basic bare bones out here. So, let's look at one of the problem sheets or videos that they placed afterwards. Okay.
All right.
Okay. So is value less than 0 or less than invalid bid value? Okay, that's fine. I'll reject it. That's fine. Remember, should be a function, and then you can define that later. We've already talked about that. If it's not active, well, auction is active. The thing is that you need to keep it consistent, right? You have this is open is closed auction, and then is not active. So you see, like, it's inconsistent.
Yeah, it is.
So that's a problem.
It's a mess.
Yeah, that's a problem. You need to be very. This is what I mean by keeping it simple. It's like if you have only one way of checking the validity, then you can apply it everywhere.
And not reinvent the wheel.
Exactly.
All right.
Yeah. So the next one here is rate limited valid bidder. Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, that one a comment you did on like the feedback,
Yeah.
right?
It's like it's good that you thought about it, but probably don't handle it just now. But I mean, because like you see here, like it's literally a one-liner, right?
Yeah, it is.
So there's no need to do it right now. We're trying to go for minimum viable product. Again, think of it this way. Think of a company that's just trying to get a product out the door. We don't care about performance just yet.
Okay.
Cancel bid and then auctions bid dot remove. This is fine. Update highest price. No need to do that because all you're going to do is look at the highest. Yeah, you don't need to do that. And then cancel all bids. You don't need that. So you see, like basically the reason I assume that basically you were finagling with all this extra code, but in reality, a lot of these can be handled like with 1-2 lines.
Yeah.
So in other words, that the reason why you're taking too long is because I think you're taking ways. You're trying to over-engineer it. So,
yeah, I think that is the same actually.
Yeah, and plus the editor says, okay, well, how would you handle this? Then you could point out, oh yeah, well, we have all these open and closed auctions in memory. So in other words, we would need some periodic function or some service or whatever to yank all the closed auctions out of the map, and then just write that to disk or something like that. And then the function for checking open and close would just return the same thing. It just wouldn't be in the open auction. So then, if that's the case, then it would just say, hey, we didn't find this auction, or this auction's not available.
I see.
So this is that's basically what how you would think about it. And anyway, because like all these auctions would just have like various states of like recently created, and then eventually you have like some purging mechanism. You see like how the code evolves, and you don't need to necessarily overdo it by having these two hash maps.
Yeah. Like different. Yeah, it can have different status, right?
Yeah. In other words, keep it simple. Keep it simple, and then add the components that you need along the way. or refactor if you need a little. But in other words, but the core ideas should be exactly very simple and very easy to put out there. Because remember, this isn't only a 15-minute, like 20
Yeah.
minute interview. So they're not asking you to
Yeah.
fucking actually design all the crazy shit. It's just like just design the simple stuff. So let's actually see like object oriented design. Let's actually see this one. That you sent the link. This
Yeah,
interview
it's
pre
on the roadmap, on-site roadmap, right?
on-site roadmap. Okay, let's see.
Yeah, you open the document, there's a link there. For the grokking the object-oriented.
Aero design or system design, component design. Make sure we.
Yeah, it's on the page 5. Yeah. And they said to me, like they said for us, right, on the prep meeting, for our level SD1, just to focus on component design, basically.
Yeah, I see. But it's like your code is still gonna count. That's the thing. Oh, they want you to do U. Don't tell me they want to use UML. Fuck.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
for
you
two of my friends, they asked this, like to do a UML, actually.
Okay, that's fine. I will tell you this. I've never done UML. I only you do some very weird version of it. But essentially, if you look at this, just drawing diagrams from what it like from an object to its dependent. So what do I mean by that? In other words, auction is dependent on the definition of bid. So in other words,
Yeah.
draw an arrow from auction to bid. Now each of these lines just says, hey, this is the relationship that they have. Open dot, and then open arrow, close arrow, whatever. Honestly, I can't fucking do that. So I'm just gonna say, hey, this inherits, and I just write inherit in the line or something like that. Or this is composed of something else. So in this case, auction is composed of bid because you need a bid in here as one of the variables.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a crash course in UML. Honestly, like I don't think you're gonna actually memorize or use UML very often. So in other words, I'm gonna say it's fucked. But as long as you kind of like say exactly what the relationship is, you're fine.
And one other thing, like, do you think it's okay? Yeah, write the functions, right? I think on the squares, Just
Yeah.
like
What's
they're
private?
doing.
All this is just like what's private, what's public.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Basically, that's it.
Yeah. And so, in other words, if you just think about, it's just the same idea where if you just think about, hey, the functions are just a composition of the variables, you'll be fine.
Mm-hmm.
Like that bidding thing we just mentioned. You just need to say, for the get highest bid, well, in theory, the highest bid should always be the last bid, so just get the last bid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, or you can use, like, if you really want to, you can use, like, a heap, maybe? I don't know, or a sorted list or something like that. I don't know. The point is that...
A sorted hash map, maybe.
Something like that, but yeah, you get the idea.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see, next one. God.
What?
I don't want to watch this bullshit. Ah.
No, yeah,
it's pains. There's just so many. There's just so much shit. Like there's so many.
But they recommend grokking at least. They're not too bad, right?
Grokking is not bad. I think this is like over. But okay, this grokking is at least decent and tolerable because like you see here, like they have a design a parking lot, right?
Yeah.
You see here, like how they have, huh?
There's one repository, like the system design introduction. No, yeah, there's a repository on GitHub. They said that is very good as well. Like, but anyways, I'm just mentioning here.
Yeah, but you see here, like they basically build it from the ground up, and then they have a very simple logic. Like look at this. Like if they just check is full, right? It's just checking all each individual count.
Yeah, I see.
Yeah, and you see like how simple this is. There's
Very
nothing very
simple.
complex in here. All it is just like, hey, if the type is motorbike spot count. If car count, then compact large count. Blah blah blah. It's just these different branches of logic that handle different situations.
Mm-hmm.
Like each of these functions is very simple, very clean, very self-explanatory.
Yeah, it is.
So in other words, That's all you gotta do. You gotta just make sure that you build it from the ground up and make sure you say exactly what you're trying to do. Like
Mhm.
I personally think that you're not gonna have enough time to write these activity diagrams. That's fucking crazy. But you should at least say what end-to-end flow might look like for something like this. In this case, you would say for the eBay system, it'd be like user puts in a bid. If the bid's not higher, if the bid is higher, accept it. If the bid's lower, then don't. If or you also need to check the auction if it's valid or
Mhm.
not too. You see like how that can also work in the UML and this flow diagram as well.
Yeah, definitely. It's just an extension, right?
Yeah, but all I'm saying is that hey, maybe instead of like writing this actual out, just think through your problem. But it's pretty much the same thing at the bottom of the day. At the end of the day, you know.
Yeah, yeah. Just change the representation. One is code, the other is draw.
Uh huh.
But do you think like we follow like the same thing as you mentioned, like logic of Twitter, logic of Tinder and Spotify, or I might as well take a look at this?
I mean, it's not bad to look at this. I think this is actually perfectly okay to do as a exercise. I personally like mine a little bit better because, one, I'm more comfortable with these type of problems. I can't. It's like if you did grokking, I wouldn't be able to help you very much because some of the
Oh, I
answers and
see.
some of the directions that they go in might be completely wild, and I'd have to spend my time trying to figure out what they were thinking. So it's like if
Oh,
you do
okay.
this, then it's up to you. It's not bad practice, but it's like I would just be able to help you less.
Oh, I think I'll choose your help as well.
Okay.
No, like more. I mean, I'll focus on
Yeah.
what you said.
Yeah, that's fine. Do you see like a single? I even have a singleton parking lot as well because you only have one parking lot. So,
Yeah.
anyway,
Just one thing I didn't explain by text, pretty much. Like they said that there's going to be one interview focused on the component design itself, where we have to write the code, you know,
yeah.
and the other interview is going to be more design the diagrams, like
Okay.
these UML kind of thing,
Okay.
you know. So basically, that is the difference between those two different interviews.
Okay. So in other words, if we looked at this problem, design a parking lot, you would have like one interview dedicated to actually designing this UML relationship, and then one dedicated to writing the code for it.
Yeah, but not specifically for the same problem.
Right.
Basically, can be different things, you know.
Exactly.
One for eBay and the other for the parking lot. You know?
Exactly. So in other words, that whole exercise you did, one would be like a 30-minute interview, one would be a 30-minute interview. So in other words, why don't you do this? Why don't you spend 30 minutes designing doing the like this UML stuff, and then
Mhm.
one for the another 30 minutes for the code, and see where that goes.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
That way
I'll do it.
you cover both sides,
Yeah, that's good.
and then you can
I'll do
also
it.
see like how effective your planning is as well.
All right. Do you have like one to go first, the code or the diagrams, or not?
I would do diagram first.
Okay.
Because the thing is that you're pretty much gonna have to plan this out to begin with. But the thing is that for the coding interview, you're probably gonna have to do it a little bit on the fly. But you should have like not 89% of the way planned and talked through before you even write the code. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
So
Okay, I'll do it then.
yeah, this is not bad. It's just there's just less things I can help you with. I mean like if you feel like you're still struggling, this might not be a bad starting point because the reason why is that it actually lays everything out so you can do the thought delta technique and just say, hey, this is what they did, this is what I did, this is what
Oh,
I considered,
nice.
this is what I didn't consider. So let me ask you this: how do you feel like you're struggling to really get solid footing just yet, or do you feel like you have solid understanding of what to do?
I feel I have the solid understand of what to do, but is more like just to practice more, you know. I feel like my idea is not to organize it, so I need to expose myself more.
Not organized. Okay,
Like
that's
yeah,
that's
in this problem and organize, so I can think like in a more logical way.
okay. Actually,
get
if
what I
the
mean.
logic and organization is your problem, and I'm kind of then actually why don't you actually try doing some of the grokking patterns actually because that'll actually probably help you more with structure. What I can do is then you do my problems and then I'll nitpick like hey this is like the decision you did because I think that if you can't organize your thoughts, there's no point in me nitpicking all these XYZ things if you can't like get in the right direction.
I think it's a good idea then.
Okay, let's do that. So then I'll assign you for grokking. You have about what? You have 10 days to the interview or a week?
10 days exactly.
10 days.
It's on the 14th.
Cool. All right, so then let's do this. Yeah. So then, for the next week until Tuesday, do this, and then make sure you do the thought delta as well. The same way we did the practice diary.
Okay. I'm using the same practice diary, by the way.
Cool. That's fine. Um,
Okay.
okay. Good. Let's see. As far as what we got for the rest of the sessions, let's actually. Why don't we do this? Why don't we do like a? Do you want to do a mock object-oriented design interview?
Um,
Or do you want to,
um,
or how are you feeling? You want more of the time to really just do the problems yourself?
yeah, I think it's gonna be a lot of the same thing repeating.
Okay.
I just I just need to structure my thoughts better.
Okay.
So, and yeah, another thing, like the other one that is the Craigslist. If you take a look, it's on the on the bottom pages. It's basically gonna be the same thing. I was trying to overcomplicate it, you know, doing a bunch of hash maps and putting unnecessary things. If you could
Yeah.
take a look at this.
I can look at this. Okay. So then, so let's see. Post an item, cancel it. Post an item, delete an. When they say item, yeah, item for sale. Mark the item as sold. Post a comment, remove a comment. Can you comment on Craigslist items?
Yes.
Okay.
I think it's like a chat,
Okay.
just a DM kind of thing.
I think it's email, isn't it? Or do they have that?
Actually, I never used Craigslist, but
Hold
I
up.
was
I'm
just.
actually gonna look this up. Can I post a comment on Craigslist?
I assume that we can.
Let me. I literally need to create an account for this. You know.
Here we don't use that much Craigslist.
Okay. Let's just say that there's no comment for now. It's really actually that makes it way too simple. Cancel an item, mark item as sold. Then you have to, then it's really just gonna come up with the organization of the system itself. So, all right. Well, let's just say that. Okay. Yeah, it's the same thing. I don't need to see all my past items necessarily, and if I do, then I can just bundle it into a list of items. Why hash map of items if you have why do I need a hash map for this?
Because it's better to search for items. You can have all of one time. Yeah, basically.
But
I
what
would
would I
say
hash
this.
it to? ID or what would I hash it to?
Yeah, based on the ID and the item itself, the item object.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I haven't specified what a mess.
Yeah, the thing is that I would just do a list, and then just like search that list. The reason why it's not immediately obvious like what you're hashing it to. Like, you want to do it like I said, ID. You want to hash it to the
An item object.
item object. The thing is that if you think about the system on a bigger scale, then you might not end up with the same item object, and then you have to implement is equals as like, I don't know. I just don't agree with it. I see where you're going with it as an premature optimization, but honestly, that's a premature optimization. It's not like I need to do. If you're doing a lookup, then there's probably faster ways of doing it. Because keep in mind, like at scale, you're gonna have like some weird issues going on. I would just do a list of IDs actually.
All right. And yeah, and go in the direction as you said, right?
Yeah,
Start naively.
Yeah,
right?
start naively, because I could have like if I really wanted, because even mind this, if we take it to its logical conclusion, we're gonna blow up the memory just because we have so many item objects. If I have an ID, then I can at least query it from a database.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I'm treating like all its on runtime, nothing on the database. Actually.
Yeah, you're not thinking in terms of like the terms of the structure itself. It's like this will get you faster in the short run, but in the long run it'll be a big pain in the ass to manage, and it's gonna be redone anyway. You want to think of it as something that will serve you, in the short run and the long run, but it's still flexible and simple. That's the best answer. In other words, private like list of string of item IDs would probably be your best bet. Something like that.
Okay.
So common ID.
I have another question.
Yes.
Here, about the language, right? Do you think it's since we are doing like components and we need to do private, public? I feel better like do this in Java. Is it okay like if I
stick in
just Java?
I'm gonna say stick with one thing and one thing only. Just pick one
Okay.
language. I've just used Java my entire time, and I've never had to switch.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I know people like Python has interfaces as well, so
Yeah, it has, but to be honest, I use Python only for code interviews and few projects on school.
yeah.
But I work with Java every day.
Okay, I'm sure you can do it with
Anyways.
Python, dude. So I mean, you use Java every day, then
No,
that's fine
yeah.
too. You can use whatever language, but just stick with one language. Remember, I think I mentioned before in the past, like, hey, yeah, if I started prying into the nuances of the language, you should be able to answer it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yes, this is where like one language is gonna be great. Okay.
Okay.
Anyway, next, cancel item. Yeah, you see like how this ends up being like very complicated, and you have to do that sorting
Yeah.
logic. You have to do that logic of moving things from post to the cancel out here, which is pretty
Yeah.
fucking ugly. Like, why do you
It
want to expose
smells
the
like
underlying?
bad thing.
The problem is that now you're exposing the underlying user objects or whatever, or the variables to the outside world.
Which variables?
This posted and canceled items. Your core logic is exposing the private variables of your user. Does that not strike you as concerning?
Like I would. Yeah, I should do maybe a user verification or
Not even
not.
that. No. What I'm saying is that if our core logic of being able to handle these transactions, why are we managing the internal guts of user? Because if let's say tomorrow we would decide to refactor the user to use the list of IDs, we have to refactor core logic.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's true.
Remember
Yeah.
the monkeys. Like if this changes, if someone decides to mess up the code,
Yeah.
what's the blast radius that we have to deal with? Like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, with the
I should to change on the.
we have to change it in areas that we don't necessarily want it to change it, and we have to touch code that we don't want necessarily touch.
Yeah, I should be aware. I thought about like use a method of the user itself. Remove something from the user, but I thought to myself like, it's just gonna be like another method to do the same thing.
Uh-huh.
But anyways, yeah.
All right, Marcus sold. Yeah, but it's pretty much me going to be saying the same things. Is that you overcomplicated this shit?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say go back to I guess the better example. Since you're kind of just starting off, look at the examples from Grokking. I think that'd be probably pretty good.
Okay, I'm gonna sign to the Grok.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, I know this is gonna be a shorter session than usual, but I think there's not much else I can talk to you about because you're just probably gonna make the exact same mistake. So yeah. So I guess I'll give you time back, and we get about the and let you do Grokking. Or do you have a different idea?
No, I think about the same, like rocking, and then when I feel comfortable, I'll go to your examples
Yeah.
and finish them.
I
The
mean,
Twitter, the Tinder, and the Spotify.
you might not be comfortable by the time you get there, but it's like within like a week, let's say, you might still be like, hey, yeah, I'm still kind of fucked up on this, but we'll check in on Tuesday and see where you're at. But it's like
Alright.
by Saturday you might not be so comfortable, and you might not even get to my problems. So don't worry too much about it if you don't finish
Alright.
grokking.
Okay, okay.
The
Okay.
quality
From
of
the
quality.
from the two friends I talk, like both of them work at Amazon, right? They said it's just gonna be the UML thing. I don't know if they changed or anything, but it's gonna be the UML and the component design.
Okay.
So, but basically, it's gonna help me a lot, like this grokking and what we're doing here.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, that sounds perfectly fine. And I really don't want to read that. I really don't want to watch that blogger's like interview prep object-oriented design thing. It's I don't know. There's just too much information out there that's just like doesn't do much for me. Like I don't know. Anyway,
Okay. Oh man, just saying, like I think the repository for system design is kind of good. Like if you want to take a look.
yeah, show it to me.
They send like is on the doc. I'm not gonna use this, right? But hold up.
The on-site roadmap.
Yeah, it's on the outside.
HackerRank system design primer. This one, system design primer. Yep, everyone knows this one.
Yeah, that
Everyone
one.
knows
Yeah,
this
that one. Excellent.
It's a good start. It's a very good starting point, but to me, it's like there's just so much information. It's not organized. There's no way. Like I mentioned before, the key is being able to execute on the information.
Yeah, there's a lot of things.
So to me, it's just like it's like it's great, it's cool, but it's like I don't fucking it's meaningless to me. Just like there's just information junk. You know, it's just a flood of information that doesn't let me figure out how to fuck to work on it or how to execute on it. So that's why it's kind of useless to me.
Yeah. It's not a structure, right?
Yeah, that's why I keep my
Okay.
process simple. I think you heard me say Russell's like, hey, just do the grokking, and wherever you fuck up,
Yeah.
go look at that topic in DDIA. Done. Very simple.
Uh-huh.
You know, and that's it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to hear your opinion about this. Anyways.
I mean, I think it's good. I just think it's like it's information overload, and again, you know, yeah, I don't have to repeat myself. So,
Yeah, yeah.
all right.
Anyways, man, I think that's pretty much it.
All right, sounds good. Then I'll let you go, and good luck with studying. I mean, we have the Microsoft to fall back on, but remember, job's not finished.
Yeah, yeah. Job's not finished.
All right, then I'll
Okay.
talk to you later. Hit me up with any questions.
Okay, man.
All right, bye. All right, so let's see if we had questions from the crowd. Hey, Sanant, what's up? What's up? Yeah, I know that session was a little bit short, but hopefully that gives you a idea of how we kind of look at this code and grade these interviews. Mostly, it's just like it's mostly looking at not just your design choices, but also like the code that you use. In other words, this was basically a lot of overcomplexity. That was kind of the problem here. And usually that's a sign of like poor planning or being overeager with the um, what's called overeager with trying to optimize. Not like these. Remember to keep in mind this code is built step by step, piece by piece, and then you optimize over what you see on the what's it called you optimize based on the problems that you run into or you can reasonably expect. So that goes back to the whole oh yeah the hash map and managing the hash map things. Like it doesn't make sense to expose this to core logic. You know, if at the very least you should at least have some function in user that handles all this. But even then, that logic will be very complicated. Just simply updating the state is going to be much better and much easier. Is he going for L5 at Amazon? No, he's going for L3 as a new grad. Like I mentioned, we already have a Microsoft offer under our belt, and it's pretty good. We'll discuss numbers later. But I want him to get the Amazon offer so that way we can negotiate and boost the Microsoft offer. All right. Tiki Kaka in Discord actually asked me to react to a Vox article. Let's see. The young, rich, anti-capitalist capitalists. Sometimes a joke that there are way more socialists who need a financial advisor than there are socialist financial advisors. Okay? Okay, warned her to her money and her to judge. My partner and I aren't planning on having children. What are we holding money for? We're literally burning. Hired financial planning firm to redistribute wealth back to society. Okay, that's fair, yeah. Like, put your money towards philanthropy. I have no problem with that. Small but wealthy people seeking a more radical approach to investing. Wait, what? The whole purpose of investing means to get your money back, to grow your money. But in other words, this looks more like philanthropy. So I'm like, I don't understand this. In general, proponents are going to merely beyond disincentivize unethical behavior in companies. They're trying to shift a more balance of financial power into the hands of working class. Okay. Some investors want to spend down all their wealth through anti-capitalist investing, while others want to get a return on their investments, but make sure these investments feel to promote social justice. Okay, so that just means don't invest in sin stocks, like Philip Morris. Sure. Anti-capitalist investing. Okay, that's one hell of a statement. All right, sure. Financial professionals in the space say they've seen a investing in recent years, and they attribute some of the interest of social justice becoming a big priority in the aftermath of 2020 racial justice, blah blah blah. Okay. Another factor fueling this shift, a lot of money is changing hands right now, so baby boomers are giving it to their children. Wealth concentrated at the top, so wealthy people are going to be giving. Okay. Okay, that's a question of how much impact it'll have. Yeah. They've attracted increased skepticism about their ethics and efficacy. All right. Positive social responsibility is hard to measure. There's been a huge amount of interest, but also a huge amount of competition and marketing dollars spent by larger investment firms that are basically looking to make a quick buck. A lot of impact washing going on. Anti-capitalist investing doesn't have a clear cut. Well, capitalism in general is just a buying and selling of goods and services, isn't it? So. Okay, I don't get it. I don't. Anti-capitalist investing. Why not just call it philanthropy? I don't know. I feel like it's weird. Okay, I would like a world that's different from the current capitalist system that we have. Transform the extractive economy. Fewer people are rewarded with profits. Into a regenerative economy where capital is spread more equitably and controlled. Okay, to me this paragraph's bullshit. The reason why is because if you think about like a competitive, let's say you take like the archetypical model of capitalism and competition, and perfect information, all these assumptions, and then one guy comes out with a lower cost product, everyone goes to that lower cost product, you know, and so necessarily capitalism would basically necessitate a winner takes all. That's just kind of the way it is. And the only way you get around that, well, there's not really a really good way to get around it, because if you look at any market, basically power always gets concentrated no matter what happens. Like you can look at telecom industry, you can look at banking industry itself. Like you know that like 20 years ago, 30 years ago, there used to be like a shit ton of banks, right? Now there's only like really four big banks in the world because of economies of scale. And so you cannot avoid this, because at some point the guy who wants to make a profit is going to beat the guy who is like doing this transformative investment stuff. You know, it's like it's cool that you invest in me, but this guy is expanding, taking all our customers, and in other words, our costs are going up, but our profits are going down. We can't afford to operate. That's just kind of the way capitalism really works. So, in other words, what you're really talking about isn't investing at all. What you're talking about is philanthropy, where your goal is to give the money away for initiatives that better, people. And I have no problem with that. Actually, I think it's very commendable. You know, Monish Pabrai's Dakshana Foundation is actually a very good example of this. The problem he describes with charity is that, well, they're not held accountable for the money that they spend and use, so they aren't necessarily going to allocate it the most effectively. And I think that's the reason why his Dakshana Foundation has actually done very, very well for educating people in India. Is that basically they're result driven. So if that's the type of business you want to run, then sure, why not? But I think to call it investing is, well, you are trying to grow your money. But that's also the problem, because again, you just run back to the whole capitalist idea. But if you try instead to maximize your impact on, like, say, the world, then okay, that's different, sort of thing. So maybe that's what they're talking about. But to me, this paragraph screams bullshit. It's like where capital is spread more equitably and controlled democratically. This is not going to happen. Just simply the nature of the game. Operating at a more radical end of it's firms like Chor Data Capital, which is explicitly anti-capitalist approach to wealth management. Okay, they want to spend their wealth over a period of 20 years. On what? That's the question. I think that comes from a place of people believing there's no real alternative to capitalism. No, there are plenty of alternatives to capitalism. It's what I'm saying is that the nature of the game, as long as you participate in it, will naturally gravitate towards that. So if you're just talking about spending money over 20 years, what are you spending the money on? So let's actually see. I'm curious. I'm making investments into worker cooperatives, which are businesses that are owned by workers, which profits shared amongst them. Okay, let's see how well this goes. I mean, I have no idea how this works, the worker cooperatives, but if it works for people, then and they want to invest in those, more power to them. However, the financial services industry isn't built for transformative investment. Minimize risk, maximizing profit. Yep. It's difficult to maintain asset diversity when you're avoiding all publicly traded stocks. Yes, it's true. Manage their client investments through custodians to keep safe assets. That's fair. Settlement due to accident, ignored a common financial advice, put half the money in the stock market, ignored it for a year, and I looked at it, it was just blown away by how much it grew in that time. She realized she didn't need all of it. Yeah. Yeah, again, I think it's a noble cause. I just think that the way they're expressing and they think about it is completely misguided. I mean, I literally brought up the example of the Dakshana Foundation. So, we're now a list of small with fewer than 30 investable firms with finance of off. Within several years, I've done see more conversations about further divesting from Wall Street, from public markets, and more into communities. Yeah. We're interested in inheritance as we know it, being the last generation of people to accumulate wealth in this way. Okay. It's an including carbon footprint, it's because such factors could impact the financial performance of a business. Doesn't necessarily prioritize social values over financial performance. Only 352 billion went towards impact of community investment. Due to the growing appetite, alternative investment strategies beyond the association. That several decades may be transformative for the financial services industry. Okay, it's a trend, sure. It's funny. It's really funny. This is actually really funny. These are the people who inherited large amounts of money, and then are looking to spend it. I think that's the biggest irony of this, is that the people who haven't spent their entire lives accumulating the wealth are now looking to put it towards causes that they believe in that will be good for the world. That I think is a complete that's a complete disconnect from reality, and you're going to run into issues. It's like, yeah, I think they've recognized a need to move beyond feeling guilty about their own privilege and profound inequality that exists in the world. They're attempting to alter the power imbalance in the relationship that they have with others and feel they're part of the community, not just connected by wealth. I mean, that's pretty much what it is. I think it's just a way of absolving themselves of the guilt of having inherited an astronomically large amount of money, and then trying to wrap a moral message around it. So that's my take on it, and I don't think there's anything wrong with giving your money away and spending it how you damn well please. I just think when you're trying to attach a morality to it and then trying to hit people over the head with it, and it's just like that's where I kind of have a problem with it. And I don't, and in my personal experience, it's like if you don't have any real experience working in the real world, you're not going to allocate money to the things that are actually the most effective. You're only going to allocate them to the things that you think are the most effective. Again, look at Monish's initiatives. He's running a philanthropy with the money from Pariah Capital, and he recognizes the shortcomings of charity and the lack of incentives there to have effective initiatives. And so he's accepted that, and having been worked in the workforce, started his own business, and run a very successful capital firm, he's recognized that and has lived in the real world and is applying what he has done and learned in the real world to charity. I think that's great. That's why he's effective. But for this man, I don't know. I just don't. I applaud the effort. I just don't think it's going to be effective. Anyway, that's my reaction to it. So, are there any other questions before I shut down the stream? At least for today. I'm gonna spin it back up at 8 p.m. Because I've got one more client. But yeah, any questions from the crowd? Okay. Going once. Going twice. All right, I guess that's it. All right, I'll see you guys at 8 p.m. Thank you all for joining me. I know this session was a little bit short, but mostly it's just focused on trying to get M to really focus on getting the right idea and headspace and feedback for the design portion of the interview. So with that, thank you all for joining me. I will see you guys later today.